Welcome and good evening, good morning. My name is David Orban, and this is Searching for the Question Live. Uh, I am in Seoul, South Korea. That's why the background is not the usual bookshelf. Sometimes people ask me if it is a digital background, and then I have to unavoidably turn around and take a book off the shelf to show them no, these are real books. But this time around, it's a bare wall behind me instead of my beloved books. The topic of today's conversation is very interesting to me. AI, automation, creativity, uh, for many people, almost an oxymoron, as if they were contradictory terms. If you automate, how can you create? If you want to create, how can you make it scalable, industrialize, make creativity predictable and machine like, as we are accustomed seeing artificial intelligence and our automated systems? Now, I don't know if we will resolve the conundrum, if we will come to an agreement, but I am happy to have our guest, Alessandro Perilli, who has been implementing large-scale automation systems for many years and who has been deeply involved in how AI tools can be applied in creativity at an industrial scale. And these are some of the things that we will start talking about, including a particular workflow that he created for image generation. And then we will very likely branch out from there, going in other directions that these topics bring up very naturally. So welcome, Alessandro, to Searching for the Question Live.
Hi, David.
Uh, why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about your trajectory? Um, how did you get to where you are today?
So first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I follow the podcast, and so I never imagined I would be a guest. So lovely to be here. The trajectory is pretty straightforward, I would say. 1 year before the release of Attention is All You Need, the famous paper, I started looking into artificial intelligence. It was 8 years ago now. And at the time, I was looking into computer vision. And then eventually, when the transformer architecture came out, I realized it was a really big deal, much bigger than just computer vision by itself. So I started to pay attention to transformer models, large language models, and then inevitably image generation with diffusion models and so forth. At that time, I was still working for Red Hat. I worked there for almost 10 years. And at the end of 2022, I left and I started a small boutique research and development lab here in London, where I live. And since then, I've done a lot of different projects with a lot of different technologies. I try almost everything that is under the sun and gets released every week. And one particular technology was most interesting to me than pretty much all the others. And it was this automation engine, this orchestration engine called ConfUI. And this is a community project that is led by a group of very talented developers that were independent. And then for a period of time, they were hired by or worked with Stability AI, and then they went back to independent. And this orchestration engine allows you to create automation workflow in a graphical way. It's a node graph kind of tool, the same kind that is used in products like DaVinci Resolve to do video color management, for example, or in musical tools to do editing of the audio. And you can use all these nodes in a graphical way to create a very complex image generation pipeline that allows you, or video generation pipeline, that allows you to create very sophisticated images at an industrial scale. And so that was very much aligned with what I've done my entire career. And I got deeper into this, and I worked for over 1 year now to develop this workflow that became more and more sophisticated and complicated, and that is called the AP workflow. And that's how we're here.
Wonderful. Let's take a couple of steps back. I assume most of the people following us are aware, but it is worth, I think, repeating that indeed our computers are now capable of realizing images at an astonishing level of sophistication based on textual descriptions, and that this magic happened over the course of the past 2-3 years, not more.
Right. Yeah.
We may still remember, and for some time we will remember, and then we will forget the sensation of first looking at the images and then trying them out ourselves, of avocado-shaped armchairs, or astronauts riding horses on the moon, which were the appropriately silly examples of the image generation programs as they became available. First, very approximate or cartoonish, and then more and more sophisticated. So why don't we talk a little bit about why this was possible, and maybe also why now? Why not 10 or 20 years ago? And is it unavoidable? Is it necessary that it feels so sudden? What are your thoughts about that?
I think that the research that the Google researchers published with that "Attention is All You Need" paper, that was not about image generation, unleashed an enormous desire for digging deeper, to learning more, to explore the unknown, to turn stones that were not turned before. And so researchers all around the world started to look in a lot of different directions and started to laterally thinking, how can we apply certain techniques or certain approaches to other things that is not just a text prediction. And so it was really a Cambrian explosion of ideas in a lot of different areas, which go well beyond text and image generation. And the time was, I think, the right time to start looking into these technologies. People started to realize that we're moving into a phase where technology allows hyper-personalization, the capability to fine-tune and customize the content that we see to the taste of an individual user or a small group of users, and so create a huge variety of content. And that comes, in my opinion, from the direction that streamers like Netflix and others are taking. So there is a growing demand to address the niche, but there is a complexity in doing so. And there's all these things come together in a confluence. I believe that the time was the right time to start looking into image generation. People saw a possibility that didn't have to exist a few years prior.
I just gave a talk, a closing keynote at a AI hackathon in Jeju Island, south of the Korean Peninsula. A very nice place. And part of my keynote was this story of a dog on the beach in 6 generations. It's funny because I then, as I always do, reused the inspiration and sent out part of the text of the keynote in my newsletter. I received some feedback, and one person wrote back, "It's not hygienic. Dogs have nothing to do on the beach." Evidently, she wasn't following what I was talking about very closely. Because what I talk about is not really dogs on beaches. It's just a metaphor where with Midjourney, in particular, one of these image generation programs, you can go back still and use version 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. of the particular engine with your prompt. And in this case, the prompt is a dog on the beach. And for me, it is very significant that for a long time, for the first 3 generations, there wasn't a lot of difference. It was almost unusable. A lot of people who were enthusiastic about possibilities they thought the platforms could have paid attention, but almost no one else. And then suddenly it became usable and then photorealistic. And here we are today at the point that you also were illustrating. Now, of course, one of the reasons why we can be where we are is advances in algorithms. As you mentioned, the attention is all you need paper. But complementary to that, the enormous amount of data that we can use to train the systems that came about because of our unquenchable thirst in sharing images on the social media platforms and posting on them text as well. And of course, the jolting double exponential increase in the power of the hardware that is able to crunch the data and perform all the calculations to then arrive to a self-taught system that can generate images or text or video or other things now as well. So you have been part of the open source community as well for a long time. Did that make you more aware of community-driven projects like Comfy UI, where you primed to recognize and realize that they are useful and important?
I would say that during my almost 10 years in Red Hat, I learned a lot about open source, especially about the business of open source, how to monetize and how to productize open source. But I wouldn't say that that was the main reason why I pay more attention to open access or open source driven projects. That was already something that was happening before Red Hat. And if anything, that was one of the reasons why I decided to join Red Hat at that time. But certainly I have a better understanding of the challenges that are behind building a community and being sure that the maintainers don't get burned out, and and a lot of other subtle dimensions that people don't tend to think about a lot, that actually are really creating the pillars for the success of an open source, of an open access project. I have to say, though, that a lot of, and I hope that people won't get offended with this, but I would say that especially in the AI community, I'm not talking about image generation versus text generation in particular, but the whole bunch, there is still quite a lack of full understanding of open source models and open source licenses. So the word open source is used very often improperly, and there are entities and forces that are trying to muddle the water a little bit. So it's not straightforward like in the canonical traditional software development space.
You are highlighting, I think, something that is very important. IBM spent $34 billion to acquire VMware. And what you are basically saying is that they may not still be able to.
You mean Red Hat? The IBM acquired Red Hat.
I can't hear you for some reason.
You can't hear me?
Neither can I. Can you?
Yeah, I can. Yes, I can.
Let's see what happened. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry. I know what I did.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
No,
me
no,
now?
it was on my side. It was on my side. I messed up. I'm using a new browser called Arc.
Yes, yes.
And on the sidebar, when the tab is using the audio, there is a way to mute the tab, and activating the tab, I clicked on the button, and I didn't realize that I muted you. Sorry. So I was saying, IBM spent, not VMware, Red Hat, of course. That is what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
IBM spent $34 billion acquiring Red Hat. And you are saying that they may not still know why or how to use it.
No, I didn't say that. What I said is that the AI.
You said that the open source business model. Let me say that. The open source business model is still not completely understood by corporations that, as a consequence, are unable to efficiently interface with vast communities of participants and contributors that need completely different types of interactions than not the traditional top-down hierarchical approach that corporations are accustomed to be able to execute, right?
That's right.
So, and there are a lot of people who are saying that IBM today is a hollow shell, and that the only functional part is Red Hat, and the other parts are only there to give maintenance services to customers still using mainframes, and basically that's it. But that is separate from what we are discussing today. The Comfy UI community is an important element in our story. And it is funny because while you were responding to my question about being ready to recognize the importance of an open source community-driven component like this, I was looking at the homepage to share, and it made me realize further two things. One, that Google is hopelessly broken to the point of being dead, because the Comfy UI creator homepage is on the second page of Google, and the second page of Google is still dominated by sponsored links. I didn't even realize.
Yep.
And isn't it horrible? The first page is dominated by sponsored link. The second page is dominated by sponsored links. Comfy.org, which is the result I want, is buried here.
Well, there is a reason for that. I think that particular homepage is brand new and was created after the implosion of Stability AI, and the Comfy Anonymous developer, that's the nickname he or she uses, left Stability AI to create a new entity with a bunch of other developers. So I think that at that time they set up this. But before this, it was just a GitHub repo. You have a point, which is the results that Google, the search engine, is giving us is not the most relevant one compared to our intent. But in this particular case, is that page might be still too new.
And then it's funny that I click on the GitHub repo, which for you and me and a few other people can be meaningful. But unless you are a developer and you are comfortable and understanding of what open source development entails and what is version control and why Git was born and all those kinds of things. Landing on a page like this can be very, very, very intimidating.
Definitely is. And it's not meant for the general public consumption, I would say. But Comfy UI, like most of the other AI projects that have been developed by the community in the last 3 years, are still in a phase in terms of market evolution that is extremely technical and is meant just for early adopters, in some cases not even enthusiasts, but early adopters. So you are looking at a very quote unquote unrefined experience to the eyes of the end user, like a line of business user in a large corporation, and they are mostly inaccessible to that kind of user. This is just for operators. So we're still in a phase where these are tools designed by operators for operators. There's a long way to go before a broader market commercialization.
And so on top of all this, you built your AP workflow. So
right.
Let's talk about it a little bit. What is it and how do people use it?
Okay, so I can explain a technical term, or I can use an analogy. Probably starting from an analogy is better. When you use an orchestration, an automation engine, Comfy UI, or any other in-market segment, you essentially have a box of Legos where you are given the bricks and you can put together the bricks to build whatever you want, whatever, a police station, fire truck, a helicopter, I don't know, whatever comes to mind from my childhood. And the problem is that while on paper, this is amazing, in practice, and I can tell you this after 25 years in the IT industry, it is a big barrier to consumption, because something that in theory can do everything, in practice does nothing. And people have hard time turning a blank paper into something that solves their very, very, very specific problem. So the AP workflow is an attempt to give you a Lego set, like the one that you can buy together. Now, it's a big workflow. So it's the Star Wars Death Star of Lego. It's a big, complicated, does a lot of things. It's a very sophisticated kind of workflow. But the point is that I'm giving you not just the building blocks, but I'm giving you an instruction manuals on how these building blocks come together to realize an outcome. And the outcome is the ones that you are showing right now. Series of functions where from a text, a source text, a prompt, or an image, source image, you can reach a number of outcomes. So you can, of course, generate an image, you can refine an image, you can transform the look of an image, you can upscale an image to reach higher resolution, and so forth. So if you let me keep using the analogy, the workflow, the AP workflow doesn't make putting bricks together different. It's just a way to give you some guidance to start with. If you are new to the world of Comfy UI and you want to automate some things, you need to start from somewhere. And the AP workflow is a jump starter for very sophisticated pipelines.
So tell me a little bit, because somewhere you write on your homepage that your workflow, AP workflow for Comfy UI has been downloaded over 30,000 times.
Yeah.
And so what kind of people in what kinds of environments use it? And they probably reach out to you from time to time for getting help or guidance or consulting with how it needs to be set up. So you learn about these use cases. What are the ones that you would highlight?
So there are mainly two groups that try to use Comfy UI and the AP workflow for Comfy UI. The one group is the group of people that more often than not you find on Reddit or Twitter active in there, and these are AI art enthusiasts that just want to generate images and want to make the images nicer compared to using other tools. So they want to apply some basic filtering or manipulation to the image. So they might not have the success that they want with Midjourney, for example. They want more control about what kind of subjects they want to generate and how the subject looks like. And so they resort to ConfUI, which is more complicated, way more complicated than Midjourney, but it gives you more control, more free, expressive freedom. And then there is the group of professionals in a lot of different industries. You can have creative studios, aid agency, media companies, even large enterprises that have big marketing departments that want to set up image generation or video generation for their associates, their employees, sometimes partners, and so forth. And they can have a lot of different use cases. Interior design, conceptualization of architectural building ideas. They do storyboarding a lot for film and comics. Even startups that are trying to generate game assets for their edu games or their professional AAA games and so forth. So there is a huge spectrum of people in the B2B, in the business world, that are trying to approach this tool and understand how to use it. The key thing that I really want to share is that the way to, in a lot of cases, especially for the first category of people, using ConfUI is the wrong choice. And using the AP workflow is the wrong choice. Because what these people are trying to achieve is just pressing one button and having one image. And you don't have to use an automation engine for that. You resort to an automation engine when, as I said, you want to build a complicated pipeline that does a lot of things to your image for each stage. People look at Midjourney. I'm sure you use it, right? You saw this, you did the 6 examples with the dog evolving over time, so you must be using it a lot, or at least enough to have a sense of how it works. And now people believe that Midjourney is just a model and a data set, and it's not. Behind the scene, the true magic is in the image generation pipeline. So a lot of different things that happen unbeknownst to you, to your prompt, to make the image better. And these things can be enriching your prompt. So if you just wrote Superman, one of the nodes of the pipeline might say, well, let's pass this to ChatGPT to make that prompt a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more descriptive. Let's add some information about the settings, the lens, the angle of the camera, the lighting, and all this other things. And then you have a bunch of other nodes or phases in the pipeline that might even decide, okay, let's generate 10 images. Which one is the best from an aesthetic standpoint, according to a certain algorithm that we have developed. And the pipeline picks the image that is the best according to that algorithm. And you, as the end user of Midjourney, only see that, the last image. You don't know all these things that happen behind the scene. The AP workflow is the same thing. It tries to give you the jump start to build a very advanced pipeline that enables the creation of tools like Midjourney, for example. And that's where the value is.
Now, looking at the baseline of tools that we have and that we have come accustomed to using, and that have started permeating our day-to-day life at a pretty amazing speed, at a rate that is very likely to be unprecedented compared to previous technologies penetrating day-to-day life. And by the way, Emiliano, who is a follower of our stream, offers another of the iconic images generated in the past, the Balenciaga Pope that was with his ski jacket displayed with a realism that made some people wonder if the image was indeed of the Pope rather than generated. So let's take this now for granted and ask ourselves what already today's tool set makes possible. For me, as you mentioned, as a user of these tools, the opportunity of expressing myself visually has become really exhilarating. And I find myself clearly able to say, hey, I have this thought and I know I can illustrate it, right? Before, I wouldn't have imagined that I could hire an illustrator and pay a human illustrator and give them the instructions and then revise and review their work. It was just something that I would never even consider. And just like me, other millions of people. But today, if I have a little idea and I want to send a post about it, I know that I can easily illustrate what I'm saying with an image, and this is for me wonderful, liberating. I am pulling up as we speak a post I shared online on some platforms just the other day, where I said that the expression "you sound like a broken record" is is something that that a lot of people don't realize connected to what used to be the long playing records, and that what it means is that you are repeating yourself, because on the record the spiral would break and the needle reproducing the sound would jump back to the previous segment over and over again, repeating that clip of sound. And similarly to how the save icon in many software products represented by a floppy disk is something that is meaningless to an increasing number of people. So a simple thought, and I was able to express or illustrate the thought with the image that I generated using. I don't remember if I used Midjourney for this or ChatGPT or whatever. There are really a lot of tools. And so for me, this expressive possibility is really a new degree of freedom for thinking better and sharing and illustrating my thoughts better. So how do you feel, both at the level of the individual and at the level of businesses, corporations, in marketing, advertising, and so on, about this new possibility?
It's a wonderful question, and your story, I relate to the story completely. So I am an art lover and an art collector too. So when I first saw image generation, my reaction was, "Oh my God, this is wonderful! I can not just express my love for art by appreciating what other people have made all around the world, contemporary artists, artists, masters of the past, but I can contribute myself in a modest way, of course, just a mediocre way even. But the point is that I was so happy to be able to express myself and try myself in a field that has been so important to me for a large part of my life. So from an individual standpoint, this is wonderful. Professionally, again, still at the individual standpoint, I've been doing keynotes all around the world for 20 years. And a characteristic of my keynotes is that I never use texts in the slides, but just images, a sequence of images, 30, 40, 50, 90 images, with just one text or nothing. And I make this constant use of analogies. So for me, the images are meant to convey analogies. And historically, putting together a deck of 30 slides would take me 30 days or more, because I would have so much to find the images that were right to convey my analogy. I would have to change the analogy. And now instead, I can just generate exactly whatever is in my mind. So to your point, expressing myself in a way that is liberating and very powerful, very impactful. The business side of this, so the people that use ConfUI and the workflow for ConfUI, many other AI tools that are out there for image generation, is that there are many, many aspects to this. We could talk for hours, but one in particular I want to highlight, and is the fact that these image generation technologies allow companies all around the world to go beyond the limits of budget, creativity, talent, logistics, everything. This is a barely discussed topic. When we talk about AI for image generation, or in general media production, we think about cutting costs, which is the main driver, no question. We think about creating at an industrial scale, which is the theme of the AP workflow, but we rarely talk about the fact that you can now set up an environment that you would not even dream of setting up. For example, I'll give you one practical example. I was doing another podcast with a friend of mine just last week, and we were discussing about his father having a business, a restaurant, I think, in the food service industry. And I was trying to give him an example that was along this line. And I was telling him, you can now have a photographer that can create an amazing stage, very suggestive, where there are two people sitting on a table in a grass area, and there is an helicopter behind them that is about to take off, and the one of the two is maybe drinking a coffee quickly and going into the helicopter for whatever he needs to do. This setup, which is silly, would not even be considered by the photographer or the director for that is serving that business, because it would be too expensive to do. It would be a logistic nightmare to rent the helicopter and have the permission to land in some places. It would just be impossible. Now it's possible. And that means that if you are talented in terms of telling stories, you can now tell stories that would be impossible otherwise. This is really big, important point, I believe.
How do you feel about those artists that are expressing their anguish, their criticism, their fear, that feel diminished by AI, that want to catalyze a movement to counter AI or even stopping AI, recognizing the reality of their anxiety and their feelings, recognizing the uncertainty of the economy that has given support to human artists already, in an uneven manner, it is now going to change further in a manner that they cannot foresee. No one can foresee.
That's right.
What kind of feedback can we give them to give reassurance that their human creativity will have value and place in a world where AI can satisfy so much of a varied demand, or even demand that didn't exist before, but now can be satisfied through AI?
This is a fantastic question. I have personal ideas about the future of creativity and where it's going, if it's going anywhere for the future. But I'm nobody. I don't represent somebody that can be listened to for an artist, because I'm not a dominating figure or respected figure in that field. So the only advice that I think it makes sense here is for those artists to look at some of the top names in their fields that have started using AI, experimented with AI, incorporating AI in their own work. That's the kind of people that they should listen to, not me. They should look at those people that are leading by example and are incorporating those technologies as a new tool to create, to tell the stories that they want to create, to express the emotions that they want to express. If they can do it, even as smaller or less known artists or a new artist can do it, should do it. You should follow that path 100%. This is number one advice. Then we can speculate at length about the future of creativity, and I have a kind of a bleak vision about this, but I don't matter. I really don't.
So your recommendation is to start experimenting and to get a feeling for the tools and for what they can give you.
Even before that, look at study what the masters in the field are doing, even before you start experimenting, because this is the problem. People are scared, they lack the confidence, and that confidence will not come just by using the tool, because you have a negative bias when you approach the tool. That confidence will come from seeing other people that are far ahead in terms of success and visibility and market power. See those people using those tools. If they can do it, you can do it. And that's the confidence that you need to bring with you when you finally approach the tool. This is important.
In a previous generation of a similar challenge, a friend of mine was asking me for some advice in wanting to become digital. She's an illustrator, very talented, one that is of a classical artistic education, and she does wood carvings and whatever other kinds of really beautiful hand drawn images. And maybe 20 years ago or so, she felt the need to become digital and started with tablets. First, one, I don't remember exactly the trajectory, so I don't want to say something wrong. But today she has become extremely familiar with those tools, very productive with those tools, and very happy to have been able to make the jump, because she has been able to serve her clients better through this faster, more proactively. And I think it is a great example for someone that made a similar jump in the past and can inspire or can illustrate how in the current conditions other artists can also make the jump.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the future of creativity. What do you think this is going to be, where one of the things that I wrote about the story and the metaphor of the dogs on the beach is that it serves its purpose up to a point. The reason why the metaphor breaks down, if we want to use it to illustrate the rapid increase in AI capabilities, is because it gives a false illusion of those capabilities hitting a ceiling and then tapering off, the progress slowing down. And the reason is, after you achieved a level of photorealistic representation of the dog on the beach, you cannot have a dog that is 1,000 times more dog on a beach that is 1,000 times more beach. So your intuition is not sufficiently pumped in realizing what possible implications of platforms and algorithms and systems and AI that perform at a level that exceeds the human level can be.
Yeah.
So, how do you see the future of creativity in a world where definitely there will be more and more AI tools that that can perform at at the human level, or at a level that is superior to the human level?
So this is another wonderful question. And by pure coincidence, minutes before starting this live stream, I published something on social media, a little snippet, meant to be a little bit provocative, but I truly believe that. And I said that it's not just that we can get desensitized to violence. We can, and I believe that, we can be desensitized to beauty. If artificial intelligence makes everything beautiful, and by that I don't mean the plastic beauty that some AI models do. There is a way to make beauty more natural. So I don't want to derail conversation there. But the point is that if AI can make things beautiful, like humanly pleasing beautiful, and can turn beauty into a commodity, what's left? Will we care? Will it matter if something is beautiful or not? We will pay attention to it or not at all. And the only thing, and the answer, the implicit answer is no, I don't believe we will pay attention anymore, just like we don't pay attention to violence anymore. The one thing that we seem to pay attention always to, no matter how many times we see the same thing over and over and over and over, is the story. The stories. We keep repeating the same stories over and over and over. The stories never change. They have a new fresh coat of paint, but the same stories over and over and over since the beginning of time. And you can tell this with a wonderful example. I don't watch TV at all, but recently I watched this TV series, I think it's on Netflix, called Chaos. And this is basically a modern interpretation of the Greek myths. And I am very negative about TV in general, especially nowadays. But that show is fantastic. Whoever put it together is really good. Now, maybe because I love Greek myths, and I grew up when I was a teenager reading Greek myths books in my house. But the point is that it's the same story repeated over and over with a fresh coat of paint that we seem insatiable about. So the future of creativity somehow is related to the future of storytelling, in my opinion, because all the other things equal, AI will make them a commodity. And here is where my vision is quite bleak. It's true that today, see, when we talk about the future, nobody better than you knows this. We always need to distinguish between short, medium term, and long term, right? And when people talk about future, they always tend to think about the short, medium term, and instead I always think about the long term, if I can. So in the short term, there is no question that AI can help humans to write better stories, faster, richer stories, maybe more emotional stories. AI can be an aid to storytellers. But then over the longer term, you have to think that these AI systems have a way to measure absolutely everything, or will be imbued with methods to measure everything. And so if Meta, to take an example, starts to produce images and videos with its Meta AI, and it starts to measure engagement on the feed of Facebook, Instagram, and they start to say, well, this story that was AI generated has more success than this story, then let's pump more of the stories. You see where this is going. There will be a point, very likely, where it will be possible to measure what stories resonate the most with humans, for whatever reason, doesn't matter. And so these AI systems will become fully autonomous, or can become fully autonomous in creating the most compelling stories. Beauty is already a commodity at this point in my future trajectory. So what's left is storytelling. Storytelling is refined, not because the AI understands the storytelling, but simply because it measures the reaction of humans to different stories. And so it becomes an optimization play, an efficiency play, where you get more and more precise stories, and then it will become hyper-personalized. Alessandro is sensitive to this particular stories. David is sensitive to this particular story. So let's pump more stories that resonate with Alessandro that are different than the ones that resonate with David. And so the creativity might, hopefully not, but might end up dying in an optimization play.
So the automation of storytelling can further atomize audiences that only automated platforms can leverage and monetize and squeeze for their attention. And this is a given evolution and direction that is very likely to happen, almost guaranteed to happen. And what I think it makes urgent is the necessity to go back and ask ourselves why storytelling is so important. What is the purpose that storytelling serves, so that we can align this emerging phenomenon of automated storytelling with those deeply rooted human purposes, rather than merely serving the money-making objectives of the platforms that can employ them.
Absolutely,
So,
we can do that, but that doesn't change the outcome, which is creativity. At least this is what I think, right? Creativity, even in that scenario, fully aligned scenario you're describing, will still be taken out of the hands of the humans and be fully automated by AI.
listen, Italo Calvino wrote a series of wonderful stories called Cosmic Comics, Cosmic Comic in Italian, where QWFWQ, who is the protagonist, it goes through series of adventures in cosmological, geological, and biological time, when the moon was close enough and you could just put a ladder against it and go to the moon to harvest moon milk or whatever it was. I don't remember. And I am sure that QWFWQ could complain nostalgically how bleak the current time is, because people's creativity has diminished to a point where they are not even designing their own universes, where they are not even experimenting with how atoms can be put together differently, and how horrible that is. Now, what I think is that the democratization of these tools, rather than diminishing creativity, will multiply it a billionfold. People who have been told that the only creative people are geniuses and they shouldn't even attempt to be creative, because they should be instead an obedient worker bee, and that is their role and that is how they should live and die, will have the luxury of um, experimenting upon themselves to learn about themselves, whether the sleeping potential of creativity that they contain can be awoken. And other people will go completely meta. They will say, yes, you're right, generating a single image, sorry, painting a single image, going weeks or months painting with my hands. No, that's not what I should be doing anymore. Writing a script is not even what I should be doing anymore. Shooting a movie is not even what I should be doing anymore. But maybe there will be new avenues of self-expression and creativity through designing, manipulating, and understanding a landscape of story arcs and how they can manifest themselves in various media, and how their interaction with audiences that are, rather than your village, laughing because you are the joker and you cannot stop but being silly. These are audiences that are all over the planet, and you gather their feedback and you uh, change what is done based on their feedback. This is something that we can glimpse is going to be possible tomorrow. And
I,
there's a new kind of creativity.
I agree with you 100% on all of this in the short to medium term. And that's exactly what I was referring to. When you take this to the extreme consequences, the long term I was talking about, then that's where I don't believe in this anymore. I believe that we will pass a threshold where all of this will happen in a fully automated way by machines, and there will be so much content. See, this is another element nobody talks about that is deeply connected to this, and it's actually a key point. You have, as a human being, like me and everybody else, a limited attention span. You are awake 16 hours a day, 12 hours a day, depending on the kind of person you are. And in that amount of time...
I am not a cat.
All right, fine.
I am awake more than half time.
Right, okay, fine. The amount of things you can pay attention to during the awake time is limited. And not always you are in control of what you see. There is an enormous, growing, in fact, effort that you need to apply in curating your own life, what you get exposed to. Most people don't have the brain power, they don't care, they're exhausted from their actual work, they have family and kids and other things that distract them, to dedicate themselves to curation. So they absorb whatever is given to them. Now, so your window of exposure is limited. Your limited time to see what appears in that. If AI systems, through this long-term optimization play I'm talking about, feed you with tons of content that is optimized, stories that have been optimized to resonate with you, even if you want to go for, let's say, the art house movie, or if you want to go for the artisanal approach to image generation, or whatever it is, or a story told by human, you might not have the chance because your window of exposure is completely saturated by this automated, optimized content. So even the ones of us that have the strength to reject a completely mechanized system, industrialized system of storytelling, might still struggle to go and find the good things because there's so much noise. You can do that. That is a key element. What happens at the large scale that concerns me a lot.
I can definitely relate to that because I spend quite content 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, deciding what to watch, putting it on my watch later list, and then maybe ending up not watching anything. It is definitely an interesting phenomenon, or the contrary, watch absolutely silly compilations of short videos, 5 or 10 minutes of 10, 20-second clips that are complete visual junk food, right? But at the same time, we also watch series that are 8 episodes of 1 hour each for 4 or 5 seasons. So quite a lot of content that has been expensively produced. I understand your points about long term, and really those questions at that point in the long term are not only about creativity, are not only about the economy, are not only about jobs. They are really deeply about human existence. And it is there where I aspire to contribute to the possible reevaluation of what it means to be human, expanding the radius of a definition that can encompass different kinds of living and different kinds of being, to the point where we can offer AIs the opportunity to acquire the label and be honored if they accept. And that kind of transhuman vision or post-human vision of a future is something that more and more people have to be not only acquainted with, but very closely familiar with, experiment and experience in various ways. As I was going through your various projects and sites, I was very pleased to see something that today may be on the sidelines, but I am happy that you did it while you did it, which is H Plus on an incredible URL, H.plus, Plus. So I don't know what happened in November 2021 when apparently the updates to the website stopped. But I encourage you to either restart it or to find someone who is passionate about managing it because it is very valuable. And for those of you who are not familiar, Humanity Plus is the moniker that the transhumanist movement adopted in order to be less narrowly identified with the specific philosophy and to express the positive view of an expansive human existence through various means of participating in the future. So your H plus database of human enhancements is absolutely aligned with that.
Thank you. That's a project that's not dead, by the way. It's been frozen because lots of things happen in my life, and I only have this many resources. And then there was the AI that was more in immediate future. But I would love to find somebody that takes care of that and then continues while I'm busy, temporarily exploring that. But there is no question that that is the long-term project that we will end up talking about enhancements of human bodies and enrichment of our capabilities in the same way that we do today about AI. There is one particular page that I'm particularly proud about on their website that narrates the story. It's not complete, but it's getting there. That narrates the story of human augmentation. And he shows that since the thousands of years ago, humans have started changing their appearance, initially for aesthetic purposes, then for to embellish themselves. That's how I call that phase. Then to improve their health. And now we're in a phase where we're slowly getting into the augmentation phase. So embellish, regain health, and then augment. It's a wonderful project. I would love to continue it if I have resources or collaborators doing that.
Very good. So, Alessandro, thank you very much for being with us today to tell us first about your passion in making comfy UI useful with your AP workflow. And then we ended up talking about creativity, AI, long-term futures, and H plus, which what we ended with. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to follow you. You have also a very nice newsletter that people can sign up to receive both in a paid and a free version. And your website, perilli.com, is probably the best to sign up, right?
That's right. Well, thank you, David. It was absolutely a great pleasure being here.
And thank you, everyone, for following today's episode of Searching for the Question Live. I am always excited to talk to people who are trying to find what are the tools that will define our existence as humans in this world that is really very rapidly changing. And I am looking forward to the next episodes and the next conversations.